This is the second section of notes for Unit 1. And in this section, we're going to be reviewing the metric system. Now, this section of notes is a little bit longer, so the video is divided up into a couple parts. So you're actually watching part 1 of the metric system notes. Now, you may ask, why do we need to use the metric system? Well, the metric system was developed in the 1700s to help standardize the way the world takes its measurements. And most countries on the planet use it as their standardized system of measurement. Only the United States, Liberia, and I believe that's Burma pictured on the map below China do not use it. But if you notice the statement for letter B, not only is it used by many of the world's nations, but it's also used as the system of measurement in science. Well, why? Why is that? Well, the reason is because it's simple. Each unit of measure has a base. For example, the base unit of measure for length is the meter. Okay, and you can add prefixes to that to make it a smaller measurement. For example, the ruler pictured here shows you millimeters, which are smaller than a meter. But you can also make that a larger measurement. A kilometer is 1,000 meters. So you would maybe measure the distance from Jacksonville to Miami in kilometers rather than millimeters. So it allows you to use a base, and from that base you have multiples of 10 to make it bigger or smaller depending on what you are measuring. One other thing that we have in the metric system is what we call scientific notation, which helps us to write very large numbers in a shorthand form. For example, 1 trillion is a pretty big number. It's a 1 followed by 12 zeros. Well, you can shorten that up by simply writing 1 times 10 to the 12th. So it's a lot less writing for a very large number. Now, using the metric system, as we mentioned, the metric system works on a series of base units. And there's only 1 unit of measurement for each type of quantity measured. In other words, for length, you can only use the meter. For volume, you can only use the liter. And to measure mass, you would use the gram. Now, to each of those base units, you can increase or decrease by means of 10 by adding a prefix. So here are the common prefixes used by the metric system to make larger and smaller measurements. So you may want to take some time to write down this table that I'm showing you. This is table 1.5 as it's called here. These are the prefixes that are used to help change that base unit to the needs, to what you need to measure. For example, kilo, the meaning of it is times 10 to the third, or that also means 1,000. So that means a kilometer is 1,000 meters. So it's a very long distance of measure. That would be something we would use, as we mentioned, to measure the distance from Jacksonville to Miami. Notice towards the bottom as you go down, they get smaller and smaller. The prefix micro means 1/1,000,000th of a meter. So micrometer is 1/1,000,000th of a meter. So it's very, very small. That would be good for measuring, say, cell structures, like the size of a nucleus inside of a cell. So depending on what you're measuring, you're going to have different prefixes. So again, if you want to write down this table, I recommend just pausing the video here, writing down these prefixes and their meanings, and even the examples here to help you kind of memorize and get familiar with using these different prefixes. But we're going to continue on now and take a look at length and how we use the length or the metric system in measuring length. As it has been mentioned before, the base unit of length is the meter. Now, to familiarize ourselves with how this works, we're going to look at a few sample problems. The first sample problem is this. What is the name given to the unit that equals 1 times 10 to the negative third meters? Well, we can easily do this by referring back to that table I showed you in the previous slide. So we take a look at table 1.5, and what we want to look for is that times 10 to the negative third, and we want to find the prefix that's associated with it. So what we do is we look at our meaning here, We want to find times 10 to the negative third. And voila, there it is. And if we follow that over, we see that that refers to the prefix milli. So that's the prefix we want to use to answer the question. So if we remove the table now, the proper answer, 1 times 10 to the negative third meters, is actually equal to 1 millimeter. So that's how that type of a conversion works. Okay, well, we have another sample problem to pull up here, and it says this. Express the measurement 6 times 10 to the third meters using a prefix to replace the power of 10. So in other words, the number that we want to replace is times 10 to the third. So again, we go back to our table and look for times 10 to the third. And here it is. And the prefix associated with it is kilo. All right, so that will allow us to go back and rename that from 6.0 times 10 to the third meters to just 6 kilometers or kilometers. Okay, so that's how using the metric system and measuring length works. Here's another sample problem to use, and this one I'm going to show you a conversion. And sometimes what we have to do is we have to convert from, say, the English system to the metric system. And that's what this particular problem is asking you to do. It's asking us how many miles are in 4 kilometers. That's not an easy thing to do just off the top of your head, so we have to use a conversion. Let me show you how this works. Whenever you have a problem like this, the best thing to do is write it out like this, and you can follow these steps as I discuss them. Okay, the first thing to do is to take the value that you're given in the problem. In this case, it's 4 kilometers, and put it over 1. Okay, what you're going to then do is multiply it by the conversion factor. So what we have in this case, if we come over to our table, here is the conversion that we can use. We want to go from kilometers to miles. So notice that in this case, 1.6094 kilometers is actually equal to 1 mile. Okay? Now what this allows you to do is now you can cross out kilometers. That leaves you with miles. So in this, if we simplify this problem, this is equal to 4 divided by 1.6094, and that will give you your answer in miles. I'll let you guys practice the simple division there to come up with the answer. Okay, but that's how that particular problem would be set up. So remember, start with the value given. So we're starting with the value that we're given, multiplying by the conversion factor that you see here. And then you carry out the division and you get your answer. Okay, we're going to come back to mass in the second part of the video. So I'm going to stop the video here, and I'll continue with mass in just a short moment.